Today you are going to be creating an aerial view, 1-point perspective. You may have done something like this before, so I'm going to go through just quickly how this goes. And so we're going to start with a point in the middle, and we are going to draw between 7 and 10 shapes out from there, and I'm going to do different kinds of shapes. So in the area inside, I'm going to do some smaller shapes. If you have something to create shapes with, please feel free to use it. And I'm just going to create some different basic shapes. I'm going to do a heart. I'm going to do a bigger square here. I'm going to do a like a sort of like a triangular shape, then inside arrow. Maybe do a one that looks like an arrow actually. I'm going to do my initial, my last name. I'm going to do a P like this. One, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to do another circle here. 9. And I'm going to do I'm going to do one more triangle, a small triangle right here. Okay, now you're going to use a ruler or a straight edge of some kind. We're going to do any shapes that are like unobstructed, meaning there's nothing in their way to get to this point. We'll do those first. So we're going to connect every corner into this point. So I got one here. I even have one here at the end of this edge of my P that I'm going to connect. And one here. I'm also going to connect this edge of my P here, and I'll stop when it hits this section. So I'm not going to trace over anything. I'll come here, one there, here, here, and out here I'm going to connect the outermost side, and as soon as it hits another one I'm going to stop here. I'm always lining up back through this middle point. So on the outermost edge of my circle, stopping when I hit that. Now, I'm going to show you how to add value in graphite. And there are some examples in the lesson using things other than graphite. There's some examples that show using colored pencil and Sharpie. So there's lots of ways that you can do this. But this is the one that everyone who has pencil and paper will be able to do without needing anything else other than a straight edge of some kind. And on this one, so when I hit the shapes in front, I just simply stop, because it will be hidden behind my smaller pillars that are there. sure we're lined up here. There we go. And last is my heart, so I'm going to do these outer edges of my heart here, and the point, and outer edge here. Alright, so these are our basic shapes. Next we are going to pattern them, and these are going to be some basic patterns. We're not going to do anything that's complex because we're going to be coloring them to look bold. So we're just going to pick some really basic kinds of lines and basic shapes. This one I'll probably do like polka dots, and we're going to be using graphite to make them dark. So the patterns that we do on top will be really bold and dark, and then the patterns that, or the shading that we do, will be in contrast, will be dark fading to light, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So on these we're going to create shaded areas, so we're going to have them sort of be graphite, gray, and white. If you had a Sharpie marker, I would have you trace everything. You'll see there's some examples like that. But in here, I'd be coloring this to look like a checkerboard, and I'm not going to spend the time to color it all, but you will if you're choosing to do this method. So, or if you're choosing to do this pattern, but you'd be coloring like every other one. Nice and solid, nice and dense. You'll see the example. And then once you have added the patterns to the tops, then you're going to do this. So we're going to pretend that every one of these now has a nice dark pattern, and I'm not going to, you don't need to watch me do that. You can do that on your own. But every single one, and you're going to want to look at the examples that are in there. So the patterns on the top are nice and bold. Okay, now the shading part. So the top of all of these get bold patterns. Try not to repeat them, but again, they're just simple. I'm going to do zigzag here. I might choose to do, here I did polka dots. I might choose to do triangles or something else. I could do one that's, vertical lines, diagonal lines, flowing lines, but no matter what I do, I'm going to be coloring those in to be bold. Okay. Then I'm going to do this. I'm going to come to the inside, the lowest part of our tower near our vanishing point. We're going to shade to dark and then gradually fade. So lightening the pressure as it comes up to very, very light. And then I'm going to smooth that gray. Then I'm going to do the same for each one. So dark and then fading to light as we come up. You'll do each one that way. So here I've got this one here. I'm going to do dark down here. And the more you can control that fade, the better. So dark and then fading up to light. Now, if you had colored pencils, you could do these in different colors. Again, you would still be doing your darkest values in the middle and then fading out. So, okay, so let's say you have a Sharpie. You're like, okay, well, I got my art kit, I have my Sharpies, and I have colored pencils because you have those in your art kit too. You then, if you're not interested in doing graphite and you have colored pencils and Sharpies, you could do different colors for these shapes. Okay, so if you have your art kit, you're going to start with your Sharpie, and you're going to trace out your shape. So I'll do this P over here and this circle one. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to trace out my letter. And I'm going to use the ruler to add in the lines. To each one of these corners. I'm going to pattern my shape still, but I'm going to pattern it with the Sharpie. So I'm going to do like this. And I'm going to make this like a bold zigzag line. So I'm going to thicken it to make it bold. And I may add some pattern into the white background. I might. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to pattern bold. And then you could use color pencil. So I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to choose like a different color for each one. I'm going to get rid of any excess pencil I see. I don't really want that gray graphite mixing with my color pencil if I can help it. So I'm going to erase away any pencil I can get out of there. All right, now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use this sort of magenta color. And I'm going to color nice and bold up at the top. Now, I'm going to do this. I could do all of this in the same magenta. I'm going to skip that one for right now and leave it white because I'm going to go back in with a violet color. So I'm going to use this violet for these. And then I'm going to use both this magenta and this violet. And I could do a blend, or I could just pick one for each side. So I'm going to do one for each side. Nice and bold. Sometimes I will go back over with my marker to clean up those edges. And then I'm going to do this. So I'm going to make this first section, because I did the magenta, I'm going to do it in violet. I'm going to go heavy at the base, and then I'm going to let it fade to light. So even though we're doing it in color pencil, we're going to still do darker fade to light. In this section, I'm going to do the magenta. I'm going to go dark, and then I'm going to fade to light. And then in this last section here, I'm going to go dark and fade to light. And that is it. So you could choose to do it in truly just in graphite and pencil. If you have Sharpie, you would trace over and pattern in Sharpie and then use your colored pencils on the sides. Still dark fading to light, whether you're doing Sharpie or whether you're doing the color pencil. All right, submit when you're done.